The Pacific coastline of Carmel-by-the-Sea looked like a place untouched by the troubles of the world. Golden sunlight reflected across the calm ocean waves. Luxury cars moved slowly through beautiful streets, and elegant shops lined the coastal road where wealthy visitors came to enjoy the peaceful California atmosphere. Among the expensive boutiques and high-end restaurants stood a luxury coastal market known for serving both wealthy residents and ordinary locals. To most people, it was just another beautiful place near the ocean. But sometimes the smallest moments inside ordinary places could change lives forever. Clara Whitmore never expected a simple grocery trip to become the beginning of a connection with one of the most powerful families in America. At 26 years old, Clara lived a life far away from wealth and influence. She worked at a local community center where she spent her days helping families, organizing support programs, and finding ways to assist people who often felt forgotten by society. She was not famous. She was not wealthy. She was not connected to powerful people. But Clara possessed something many powerful individuals had lost over time: compassion. She had learned that people often looked at appearances before looking at character. In a world where expensive clothing and luxury lifestyles determined how someone was treated, Clara believed every person deserved respect. Her simple lifestyle was something she valued. She avoided wealthy social circles, stayed away from unnecessary attention, and focused on creating a meaningful life rather than chasing status. That was why she noticed the elderly man standing near the grocery counter. Theodore Ashford looked like someone most people would ignore. He wore a simple jacket, carried an old leather wallet, and moved with the quiet patience of someone who had lived many years. While other customers rushed past him, Clara noticed the slight concern on his face as he looked at the payment screen. The cashier waited. Theodore checked his wallet again. A small moment of discomfort appeared on his face, but he quickly tried to hide it. Most people around him looked away. Clara did not. She saw an elderly man who needed help, not a person who could offer her something in return. Without knowing his name, his history, or his importance, Clara stepped forward and covered the remaining grocery payment. It was not a large gesture. It was not something that would make headlines. But to Theodore Ashford, it meant something much greater. For years, people had approached him because of his influence, his family name, or the power connected to him. Very few people had ever treated him like a normal human being. Clara did. She did not know that Theodore Ashford was the grandfather of Roman Ashford, the billionaire Mafia leader whose name caused fear among powerful men across the country. She did not know that his family controlled a hidden empire built on money, loyalty, and fear. She only saw an old man who needed kindness. That simple act created a connection between two completely different worlds. A world of ordinary struggles, and a world of unimaginable power. As Clara left the coastal market and walked toward the ocean view streets, she believed the moment was already forgotten. But inside the parking area, several black luxury vehicles quietly arrived. Theodore Ashford was no longer treated like an ordinary elderly man. Private security surrounded him. And within minutes, the most feared billionaire mafia leader in America received unexpected news. A stranger had helped his grandfather without asking for money, protection, or power. For Roman Ashford, that kindness was something his dangerous world had almost forgotten existed. The man feared by enemies across the world had spent his entire life believing that kindness came with a hidden price. Roman Ashford had seen powerful people betray each other for money, influence, and control. He had watched loyal employees become enemies and trusted partners become threats. In his world, every favor had a reason, every smile had a purpose, and every relationship had a hidden calculation behind it. But one simple act inside a coastal grocery market challenged everything he believed. A stranger had helped his grandfather without knowing his name, without knowing his wealth, without knowing the power attached to the Ashford family. Roman could not ignore it. His luxury penthouse tower stood high above Manhattan, overlooking the endless city skyline. The massive glass windows reflected the lights of New York, while expensive artwork, designer furniture, and private security surrounded the place he called home. To the outside world, Roman Ashford had everything: At 35 years old, he was one of the most successful businessmen in America and one of the most feared figures within the hidden criminal world. His companies controlled international investments, his influence reached powerful circles, and his enemies knew better than to underestimate him. Roman was not feared because he was reckless. He was feared because he was patient, strategic, always several steps ahead. His tall muscular frame, sharp jawline, dark hair, light beard, and intense presence made him impossible to ignore. The expensive suits he wore represented his billionaire image, but beneath the polished appearance was a man who trusted almost nobody. The only person who had always seen beyond his reputation was Theodore Ashford, his grandfather. When Roman received the security footage from the coastal market, he expected to see another person searching for an opportunity. Instead, he watched Clara Whitmore. He watched a woman who had no idea who Theodore was. She did not know his family name. She did not know his wealth. She did not know that helping him would eventually place her inside one of the most dangerous worlds in America. She simply saw an elderly man who needed assistance. That detail stayed in Roman's mind longer than he expected. For the first time in years, someone had done something kind without wanting anything in return. Roman ordered his trusted security chief, Ethan Calloway, to investigate Clara's background. Ethan was one of the few people Roman completely trusted. His loyalty had been tested through years of danger, business conflicts, and family struggles. The investigation was simple, first, but every detail about Clara created more curiosity. She had no criminal connections, no hidden relationship with rival families, no secret reason for helping Theodore. Her life was exactly what it appeared to be. Normal, honest, genuine. Roman stared at the information in silence, remembering a belief he had carried for years. Everyone wants something. Money, power, protection, favor to use later. But Clara Whitmore wanted nothing. The most powerful man in the city could buy loyalty, influence, and fear. But he could not buy the one thing Clara had given freely: human kindness. For the first time in a long time, Roman wanted to meet someone not because they were useful, but because they were different. He decided to find Clara personally. However, before Roman could make his move, another person discovered her name: Victor Langston. And unlike Roman, Victor did not see Clara's kindness as something beautiful. He saw it as the perfect weakness to destroy the Ashford Empire. The Amalfi Coast looked like a masterpiece painted by nature itself. The golden sun slowly disappeared behind the horizon, covering the deep blue Mediterranean Sea with warm orange light. Luxury yachts moved across the calm water, expensive villas rested along the cliffs, and powerful people gathered in places where ordinary rules no longer existed. But beneath the beauty of the coastline, a dangerous plan was beginning. Far away from the public eye, a luxury yacht stood anchored in private waters. The vessel represented wealth, influence, and hidden power. Expensive furniture filled the upper deck, private security guarded every entrance, and successful businessmen sat together discussing decisions that could affect entire organizations. This was not a meeting about business. It was about control. The men gathered on the yacht understood that power was not only measured by money. It was measured by loyalty, fear, and the ability to destroy anyone who stood in the way. At the center of the meeting was Victor Langston. For years, Victor had been one of Roman Ashford's closest allies. They had built connections together, shared information, and worked toward similar goals. But while Roman valued control and stability, Victor wanted something much greater: complete domination. Victor was intelligent enough to hide his ambition behind patience. He never moved without a reason. He never revealed his true intentions until success was almost guaranteed. To many people, he appeared like a respected businessman. But those who knew the truth understood something different. Victor Langston was a man who believed every relationship existed only until someone stronger came along. His desire for control had grown for years. He believed the Ashford Empire belonged to him as much as Roman, and he had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to take everything. That opportunity arrived when he discovered Clara Whitmore. At first, Victor considered her insignificant, a woman with no wealth, no influence, no connection to powerful families. But then he learned the truth. Clara was the stranger who had helped Theodore Ashford, the woman who had treated Roman's grandfather with genuine kindness, the woman who had unknowingly reached a part of Roman that very few people had ever seen. Victor studied every detail about Clara's life and quickly understood something that even Roman had not fully realized. Clara was not valuable because she had power. She was valuable because Roman cared about her. For years, enemies had tried to challenge Roman through money, business attacks, and direct threats. None of those methods had succeeded because Roman was prepared for them. But Victor discovered something different. Roman Ashford, the man who trusted nobody, had finally found someone who reminded him that humanity still existed. And that made Clara dangerous. The secret war between the two men was no longer about business ownership or financial control. It became personal. Old rivalries resurfaced. Hidden agreements were questioned. Former alliances began breaking apart. Victor believed that if he could destroy Roman's connection with Clara, he could destroy the foundation of the Ashford empire itself. The woman who had no wealth, no influence, and no protection suddenly became the one person capable of shaking an empire. As the yacht continued moving through the peaceful Mediterranean waters, Victor made his decision. His people would follow Clara Whitmore. They would study her life. They would discover every weakness. And they would use her kindness against the man who had spent his entire life avoiding emotional attachments. But Victor did not realize one important thing. Roman Ashford was already aware that Clara was in danger. And for the first time in years, the most feared billionaire in the city was preparing to protect someone not because she was useful, but because she had changed him forever. The mountains of Lake Tahoe looked peaceful from a distance, but Clara Whitmore quickly learned that beautiful places could hide dangerous truths. Surrounded by snow-covered peaks, endless forests, and quiet valleys, the luxury mountain estate appeared like a private paradise. The massive mansion stood above the landscape with large glass windows, elegant stone walls, and breathtaking views of nature. It was the kind of place most people only saw in magazines. But Clara knew better now. She had learned that appearances could be misleading. After Victor Langston discovered her connection to Theodore Ashford, Roman Ashford moved Clara away from the city and brought her to the estate where his security was strongest. The location was isolated, protected by private roads, advanced surveillance systems, and highly trained guards who watched every movement around the property. Roman called it protection. But to Clara, it felt like another reminder that she had entered a world she never asked to join. Only days earlier, her biggest concerns had been community projects, daily responsibilities, and helping people who needed support. Now she was living inside a mansion owned by one of the most powerful and feared men in America, Roman Ashford, the man who had appeared in business magazines as a billionaire entrepreneur. The man whose name was whispered differently among people who knew the darker side of his empire. Clara eventually discovered the truth. Roman was not only a successful businessman. He was connected to a powerful Mafia organization that controlled influence far beyond ordinary business circles. His enemies were not normal competitors. They were people who would destroy anyone standing between them and power. The revelation changed the way Clara looked at him. The man who had protected her was also the man surrounded by danger. She struggled with conflicting emotions. Fear told her to stay away. Confusion made her question every decision. But something else made her hesitate. Roman had never treated her like property. He never forced her to stay. He never demanded loyalty because he had protected her. Instead, he gave her choices. He listened when she disagreed. He respected her boundaries. For a man known for controlling everything around him, Roman showed surprising restraint when it came to Clara. That difference slowly changed how she saw him. Behind the billionaire image and feared reputation was a man who carried years of betrayal, responsibility, and loneliness. Roman had spent his entire life building walls around himself. Clara was the first person who made him consider lowering them. Theodore Ashford noticed the change before anyone else. Watching his grandson become less distant reminded him of the person Roman had been before power, and responsibility changed him. Clara's kindness had reached something inside Roman that money and influence never could. She reminded him that strength was not only about controlling others. Sometimes strength was about allowing someone to see the person behind the power. For the first time, Clara began wondering if the dangerous man protecting her was also someone who needed protection from the world he lived in. But the fragile trust forming between them was threatened before it could fully grow. One morning, the estate's security system suddenly failed. Cameras went offline. Private communication lines stopped working. And hidden access records revealed something impossible. Someone inside Roman Ashford's own organization had been secretly providing information to Victor Langston. The crystal waters of Fiji looked like a place where problems could never exist. The private island was surrounded by endless blue ocean, white sandy beaches, and tropical forests untouched by the outside world. A luxury villa stood near the coastline with modern glass walls, private gardens, and breathtaking views of the sea. To anyone looking from the outside, it appeared to be a perfect escape. But Roman Ashford knew something Clara Whitmore was beginning to understand. Beautiful places could hide dangerous secrets. After the security failure at the Lake Tahoe estate, Roman realized that the threat was closer than he originally believed. Victor Langston was not simply attacking from the outside. Someone inside Roman's own organization had been opening doors for him. The mountain estate was no longer safe. So Roman moved Clara and Theodore to a private island villa in Fiji, hoping distance would give them time to uncover the truth. But distance could not protect them from betrayal. The island was protected by advanced security systems, private guards, and carefully controlled access points. Roman had chosen the location because almost nobody knew about it. At least that was what he believed. For the first few days, the island seemed peaceful. Clara walked along the shoreline, surrounded by the sound of waves and tropical winds. After everything that happened, the quiet environment gave her a rare moment to breathe. But she was no longer the same woman who had walked into a grocery store and helped a stranger. The danger had changed her. She had learned to observe, question, to notice details others ignored. While Roman investigated security records, Clara began paying attention to the people around them. She noticed small changes in behavior, unusual movements from certain guards, and patterns that suggested someone was hiding something. Her greatest strength was the same quality that had brought her into Roman's life. She noticed people. Roman had built his world around strategy and power, but Clara understood emotions and human behavior in a way that many powerful people never learned. Together, they discovered hidden messages buried inside the island's communication system. Someone had been sending information about Roman's movements. Someone knew their locations before security teams were informed. Someone had access to private plans. The discovery confirmed Roman's worst fear. The enemy was not searching for a way inside. The enemy was already there. For years, Roman believed protecting people meant keeping them away from danger. He believed strength came from carrying every burden alone. But Clara changed that belief. She was not a weakness that needed to be hidden. She was a partner who could stand beside him. For the first time, Roman allowed someone to share the weight of his problems instead of carrying everything alone. The connection between them grew stronger, but the island still held one final secret. When Roman finally identified the traitor, he expected betrayal. He expected greed. He expected money to be the reason someone turned against him. But the truth was far more personal. The traitor revealed that the reason behind their actions was connected to Theodore Ashford's past. A secret buried for decades. A secret that could destroy the Ashford family name forever. And when Roman discovered what his grandfather had hidden, he realized the greatest threat to his empire had never been Victor Langston. It had been a truth his own family had buried long ago. The desert had a way of preserving secrets. Beneath the endless Arizona sky, The red mountains of Sedona stood like silent witnesses to decades of hidden decisions, forgotten promises, and buried truths. The landscape looked peaceful, but Roman Ashford knew that some of the most dangerous secrets were not hidden in enemy territory. They were hidden inside family history. After discovering the betrayal on the private island, Roman followed the information connected to Theodore Ashford's past. The trail led them to a luxury desert mansion located far away from the cities and the world of business. The estate was surrounded by breathtaking red rock formations, private gardens, and miles of untouched desert. From the outside, it looked like another symbol of Ashford wealth. But beneath the elegant design was something much more important. Hidden past. Inside the mansion, Roman discovered secret rooms filled with old documents, photographs, and records that had been carefully protected for decades. These were not financial files or business agreements. They were memories, evidence of choices his family had made long before he inherited the Ashford name. Theodore Ashford finally revealed the truth. The man Roman had always respected had spent years carrying a burden that nobody knew about. The Ashford Empire had not always been built on fear and power. There was a time when Theodore tried to change the direction of the family. He secretly protected innocent people who had been harmed by criminal organizations connected to the old Ashford operations. He used his influence to help families escape dangerous situations. He created opportunities for people who had no power. But changing a powerful system came with consequences. Theodore knew that Roman would eventually inherit everything. That was why he kept searching for a way to make his grandson different from the generations before him. He did not want Roman to become another man controlled by greed and power. He wanted him to understand that an empire meant nothing if it destroyed the lives of others. The truth forced Roman to question everything. For years, he believed strength came from control. He believed fear protected people. He believed emotions created weaknesses. But standing inside that desert mansion, surrounded by his family's hidden history, Roman began seeing his legacy differently. The empire he inherited was not only a source of power. It was a responsibility. Clara Whitmore watched Roman struggle with the truth. She understood that discovering painful secrets about family could break someone completely. But she also saw something others never noticed. Roman cared. Behind the billionaire image and mafia reputation was a man who wanted to make the right choices, even when those choices meant losing everything. Clara helped him understand that power without humanity was meaningless. A person's true strength was not measured by how many people feared them. It was measured by how many lives they protected. For the first time, Roman considered changing the Ashford legacy instead of simply continuing it. But before he could decide the future of his empire, danger returned. Victor Langston had been waiting. With the Ashford family secrets exposed and Roman emotionally vulnerable, Victor prepared his final move. He revealed his plan to take control of everything Roman had inherited. And this time, Victor was not trying to defeat Roman from the outside. He planned to destroy the Ashford Empire from within. The final battle was never truly about money. It was never about luxury businesses, powerful connections, or control over an empire. For Roman Ashford, the war had become something far more personal. It was about protecting the one person who had changed everything he believed about strength, loyalty, and power. Clara Whitmore. After discovering Victor Langston's final plan, Roman knew there was no longer any place to hide. Victor had spent years waiting for the perfect moment to take control of the Ashford Empire, and now he believed Roman was vulnerable. He believed Clara had weakened him. He was wrong. She had not made Roman weaker. She had reminded him what he was fighting for. The Beverly Hills mansion stood above the city like a symbol of generations of wealth and influence. Beautiful gardens surrounded the estate. Expensive artwork decorated the walls, and massive glass windows revealed the lights of Los Angeles below. It represented everything the Ashford name had built. But on this night, it would become the battlefield where that legacy would either survive or collapse. Roman gathered the people who had remained loyal when others chose betrayal. Ethan Calloway prepared the security teams while trusted allies protected the mansion's entrances and secured every possible escape route. For years, Roman had depended on fear to maintain control. Now he depended on loyalty. That difference showed how much he had changed. Victor Langston arrived with his forces believing victory was already guaranteed. He believed Roman was still the same man who ruled through isolation and intimidation. He never understood that the woman he wanted to use against Roman had become the reason Roman refused to surrender. When Victor's attack began, the peaceful luxury of the mansion disappeared. Security systems activated. The elegant halls filled with movement. The carefully designed rooms that once represented success became scenes of conflict. Luxury decorations were damaged. Glass windows shattered. The empire built over decades faced destruction in a single night. But Clara was no longer the frightened woman who had entered Roman's world by accident. She had learned how powerful information could be. While Roman and his allies confronted Victor's forces, Clara uncovered the final evidence proving Victor's betrayal. She found hidden financial records and secret agreements showing that Victor had manipulated the Ashford organization from the beginning. Her intelligence became the key to exposing him. Roman finally understood something important. The woman he once wanted to protect from his world had become the person helping him save it. For years, Roman believed love created weakness. But Clara showed him the opposite. Love gave people a reason to become better. As the final confrontation reached its peak, Victor's plan collapsed. His allies abandoned him when the truth became public, and the empire he wanted to steal began falling apart around him. Roman had the opportunity to destroy Victor completely. But instead he chose justice. He chose his family. He chose a future different from the one his ancestors created. When the mansion finally became quiet again, Roman believed the worst was over. But while reviewing Theodore Ashford's remaining documents, Clara discovered something hidden inside an old family file. A sealed letter. The handwriting belonged to Theodore, and the first sentence revealed a secret about Roman's birth that could change everything he knew about himself. The Oregon forest looked nothing like the world Roman Ashford had once controlled. Far away from crowded cities, dangerous meetings, and powerful enemies, a peaceful woodland retreat stood surrounded by deep green forests, tall trees, and a beautiful waterfall flowing nearby. The modern wooden villa blended naturally with the landscape, creating a place where silence replaced fear and nature replaced the constant pressure of power. For the first time in many years, Roman experienced a life without always looking over his shoulder. But peace did not come easily. It came after losing almost everything he once believed defined him. After surviving the Mafia war, Clara Whitmore faced the most important decision of her life. Could she truly trust the man whose world had changed everything she knew? The same man who once represented danger had become the person who protected her. The same billionaire feared by enemies across the country had become someone willing to sacrifice his power for the people he loved. Roman understood that Clara deserved more than promises. She deserved proof. That was why he began walking away from the dangerous parts of the Ashford empire. The businesses built around fear and intimidation were replaced with legitimate investments. Old alliances based on control were abandoned. The influence that once made people afraid of him was transformed into something that could help others. Roman was no longer trying to become the most powerful man in the world. He was trying to become a better man. Clara watched the transformation carefully. She remembered the woman she had been before everything changed. A simple woman who entered a grocery store, helped an elderly stranger, and walked away believing the moment meant nothing. But that small act of kindness had changed her entire destiny. Through everything she experienced, Clara discovered that Roman was not defined by his wealth, his reputation, or the dangerous family name he carried. He was defined by his choices. And the greatest choice he made was choosing humanity over power. Theodore Ashford spent his remaining years watching the family legacy change. The empire that once created fear slowly became something different. The old man who had received kindness from a stranger became the person who witnessed the greatest transformation in his family. Theodore always believed that wealth meant nothing if it could not be used to protect people. Now, finally, the Ashford name represented responsibility instead of fear. Clara eventually returned to the coastal town where everything began. The same place where she had helped an old man at a grocery store. The same place where a simple payment created a connection between two completely different worlds. The old grocery receipt that once seemed meaningless became a symbol of something much greater. One small act of kindness had created a bond stronger than money, influence, or power. Years of danger taught Roman one important truth. The greatest strength a person can possess is not the ability to control others. It is the ability to care for someone without expecting anything in return. As Clara and Roman stood together beside the peaceful Oregon forest, listening to the sound of the waterfall and watching sunlight move through the trees, they remembered the journey that brought them there. Poor old man. Kind stranger. A feared billionaire mafia boss. 3 lives connected by one unexpected moment. The woman who only wanted to help someone in need became the person who changed the heart of the most dangerous man in the city. And Roman Ashford, the man who once believed emotions were weaknesses, discovered that love and kindness were the strongest powers he had ever known.